like. You think this thing that you like that you thought was completely insulated from him? No, actually, he's coming to ruin that too. Okay, so it wasn't enough to come for the immigrants. It wasn't enough to come for the federal workers. It wasn't enough to go after the kids with cancer. No, Trump also needs your letterboxed gone out of the country. Okay. He announced this morning that there was going to be a 100% tariff on all films produced outside the United States, which in true Trump fashion leads us all to scratch our heads, being like, I wonder if you can actually do that. Well, it doesn't look like he's very serious about it, but all us serious people living in a serious reality have to come and speculate what that means. So let's dive into it, shall we?
Also announced a new tariff this weekend. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, and this is an interesting one. The president saying that he will now put a 100% tariff on movies that, as he puts it, are coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. He says,
coming into our country. Does art come into our country? You know, I know this is a very nitpicky thing to like start it off on, but can art really come into our country? I feel like that's just so revelatory of like the kind of mentality that these people have, that any kind of foreign form of influence should just not be allowed.
we want movies made in America again. It's not precisely clear whether this includes all foreign language movies that are shown, for instance, in art house cinemas, whether it includes foreign productions on streaming services, or whether it includes all movies that include some aspect of production that are outside of the United States. Because movies, a lot like cars, include various components that are produced in different countries. In a lot of cases, you know, if a movie is scripted in the U.S., cast in the U.S., it might be shot outside of the U.S. And
I went to film school, by the way. You know, just so you know that I'm a little bit better than you. But he's completely right. Like, there's so much that goes into a movie. Like, a film is almost like a music festival or something, just in terms of like personnel that it takes, you know, to just make every frame on the screen happen. You know, and Donald Trump is obviously not a stranger to the film industry. He's been in various films before of varying quality and prestige, right? But it's also important to understand that he's coming from the reality TV world. Like, he has such a simple view of everything that he probably thinks it's like, oh, you know, just shoot it in America and then the rest can be on green screen. Everything's computer. But, you know, if I have a film and I have like a Swedish guy create the score, like is so customary these days, it's like, is my movie now double the price? It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
Part because a number of other countries include some tax incentives for production of motion pictures. And so the president here is identifying a real issue. You know, talk to anyone in Los Angeles, they do say that a lot of the jobs associated with the motion picture industry.
And look, I understand that, you know, CNN and any other mainstream outlet does have a duty to report things as evenly as they possibly can. But can we stop sane washing this? Okay, like, I hate that every single Trump issue, it leads off with this crazy thing that he wants to do, and then the first thing that the journalist has to say is like, oh, you know, there are definitely some problems with this sector. There's definitely some problems with that sector. It's like, let's not even entertain that, okay? This is a stupid idea. Like, let's not even entertain this idea. If we're reporting on it, we're mocking it, all right? Like, there's no need to talk about the plights of the film industry because it's not like Donald Trump even cares.
Have dried up, in part because it's cost prohibitive to shoot movies in California. The president here clearly trying to remedy this issue as part of this broader effort to move production of all kinds of goods and services back to the United States. The president says he does think that new trade deals could be announced this week as part of his effort to reorient global trade. Wolf.
And the thing is, it's like, if I had to give my theory as to why this is suddenly a priority for Donald Trump, two things. Number one, to distract from the fact that his presidency is on fire right now, and not in a good way. Okay, his presidency is a dumpster fire, a bunch of unprecedented. He's already battling the Supreme Court. He's not even 6 months into Trump 2.0. Okay, so he's trying to distract from that with movies, things that people universally care about. Right. Number two, he's trying to one up China because China says we do not want your American movies. Okay, China has a growing film industry that is pulling in millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. Okay, they're breaking their own records for the highest grossing films domestically, and it I don't. They're kind of having an artistic renaissance, right? Just China. It's kind of becoming China century, right? So China's like, we don't want your Hollywood movies. They suck, which fair enough. President G, you're completely right. Like mainstream Hollywood movies do suck now, and Donald Trump is probably realizing this and being like, "Oh, well, we'll just pull it back from them as well." You know what I mean? Because let's be real here. This whole trade war is between us and China. Everyone else is just in the crossfire, realistically, right? We practiced on Canada and Mexico, but now they're not even a priority anymore. We don't even care about them anymore. It's all just Trump's pissing contest with China, and movies are just the latest casualty.
All right, Kevin Liptak over at the White House. Thanks very much. And Pamela, this is personal for me because when I was in Mission Impossible Fallout, the film, they flew me to London for my scene, to film my scene in London.
They flew him out to London for that, yo. If you guys saw this movie, you would know how ridiculous that is, bro. Because I'm pretty sure he wasn't even like walking around Tom Cruise. Like this fool was just on the TV still.
So if Trump gets his way, you couldn't do that anymore. You got to film everything in the United States.
Right, which a lot of people in Hollywood and elsewhere would applaud, right? Not going overseas.
Your liberal humor, is not funny.
Doing, but as Kevin pointed out,
give it a
rest. There's a lot of practical issues with this that would need to be worked out. But interesting. Only you can say that, Wolf, right?
It's so funny that like all the anchors on Fox News have like a very specific like blonde kind of I don't want to use the B word, the BIMBO word, right? But it's kind of funny how like she like perfectly like counteracts that as kind of like the brunette liberal stereotype, like Lois Lane looking motherfucker.
I was in Mission Impossible. I had to fly to London.
There are a few other actors in Mission Impossible. Well, they all flew to London.
That's right. That's pretty cool.
I was in James Bond Skyfall, too.
I know. How many movies have you been in?
A lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you
go,
go,
lot.
Folks.
Movie World reacting to a new announcement by the US president ordering a 100% tariff on foreign films shown in the United States. In a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump said Hollywood is being devastated by productions filmed outside the US and is likening that to a national security threat.
Okay, so number one, calling it a national security threat is stupid. That's so stupid. Like no American's life is in danger because movies from other countries are spreading around. Okay, I mean, and that and that just sounds like stupid on its face, like, oh, some classic Trump stupidity, but it's really lampshading something a lot more dark. It's just lampshading the fact that they don't want art from other places infiltrating the American psyche because it'll probably tell us what we're doing is deeply wrong. Okay, but okay, like obviously, the film industry in America, it's wobbly, right? It's wobbly, and it would be nice as a lover of film, as someone who got educated in film, hopes to have a career in the film industry some point soon. It would be nice that the president is trying to reinforce that industry, right? But here's the problem. It's the same shotgun blast, taking over Twitter style of management, because it's like just doubling the price of movies. The doubling the price to create films is going to have the opposite effect. Like business owners are going to just get more conservative. They're just going to get more they're just going to become less likely to take risks on the art that it would require to kind of elevate the industry, and there really just needs to be an adult in the room. It's like Donald Trump does have Hollywood types around him, like Sylvester Stallone or like Kid Rock, like I don't know, just like just these plebs around him. But the problem is Mel Gibson, right? It's Mel Gibson, what I mean? Just these skeevy Hollywood guys that are like in their late 50s and shit, right? they, even though they had illustrious careers in the past, I think that because they're going full MAGA, they're only going to really be interested in getting their own projects realized. So we're just going to have a new, and potentially, given that Trump doesn't walk this back by tomorrow, which is very much possible. But if this does continue, what I imagine is going to happen is that we're just going to have just like a boys club of like ultra conservative, like, moguls from the past just deciding what gets funded and what doesn't. You know what I mean? And Trump would love that. It's like a McCarthy era dream for something like that to happen.
We don't cover politics specifically here very often.
I think it's also going to be studied in the future how before everything didn't have to be politics, but now it's like with Trump's style of Mad King governance of the United States, it's like he's gonna infiltrate your YouTube bubble. Unfortunately, like Dan Murrell is someone who I watch when I'm not trying to think about the state of society, but even him, he has to be like, okay, like this is what this crazy fool is doing to this industry now. You know what I mean? This other thing that you like, you think this thing that you like that you thought was completely insulated from him, no, actually he's coming to ruin that too.
But this was an announcement from President Donald Trump that happened last night that could have potentially massive ramifications on the entertainment industry. So let's jump right into it. Last night, as has become standard, the president posted on his social media platform, Truth Social, quote, "The movie industry in America is dying a very fast death. Other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away from the United States. Hollywood and many other areas within the USA are being devastated. This is a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. It is, in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. Therefore, I am authorizing the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. We want movies made in America again." Later last night, he told C-SPAN, quote, "What they've done is other nations have been stealing the movie-making capabilities from the United States. If they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, then we should have a tariff on movies that come in."
It's really funny. Well, none of this is funny at all, but it's really ironic because I would say a large amount of films do still get shot in the United States, right? Before, obviously, old Hollywood, everything was shot in California. Now things are shifting more towards Georgia, just because it has, good weather, and also the lots that they have are really impressive. Marvel shoots mainly in Georgia. Tyler Perry has become one of the richest black people on the planet by just kind of facilitating, reliable working film environments in Georgia. So people are shooting in America, right? And also, too, state for state, there are individual incentives to shoot. Now, could those incentives be better? Definitely. But I think that it's probably healthy that there's a little bit of competition between the states. And again, it's like I don't think that these Hollywood creators are conspiring to globalize their films, right? Like they're probably just shooting what they can get away with. You know what I mean? And to put a bow on what I'm saying here, sometimes if your movie requires like some kind of ancient planet, and you're selling it to American audiences, maybe you can't film it in America. Like, maybe you need to go to Iceland, like Star Wars, right? Like to make it look a little bit more exotic for people. I don't think that's wrong. Like, and that doesn't even mean that it's not mostly American jobs that are being created, This is stupid. It's like, why are we even interrogating this with logic? Like, we all know this is stupid.
And not only that, governments are actually giving big money. They're supporting them financially. That's sort of a threat to our country in a sense. Now, the money part, I understand. The government propaganda stuff, I'm not really
ridiculous.
as sure about, unless the president is specifically referring to movies that are imported directly from other countries, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But really, the financial stuff has been flagged by people across the political spectrum for a while now. The idea that more and more major productions are leaving the US in order to get made in other countries because it is cheaper, honestly, for them to do that.
And look, I mean, this is kind of consistent with like Trump's stance on all this. It's like, okay, the fact that America relies on any other country for literally any single thing is bad. That's the policy. So why? Of course, this is what's next. You know what I mean? It's the next logical conclusion. And Trump is really dipping his toes in authoritarian censorship. So controlling what people watch on Netflix or whatever is probably a fever dream for him. You know?
Now, normally when a proposal like this is made, it comes with a bit more detail so people can really understand what's going on. But in this era, when policy changes are largely announced on social media, this is kind of becoming the new norm, and Hollywood has already taken notice of the president's words. Variety reported last night, quote, studio executives convened emergency calls after Trump issued his declaration, though there's enormous uncertainty about whether the president has the authority to institute these tariffs, as well as...
He does not, by the way. Like, he doesn't have the authority to do any of these things. He's largely doing it through emergency powers that he's claimed. Which shouldn't stand up as just Congress's MIA, right? So he's not allowed to do any of this stuff, by the way. And that's also what makes it so uncertain for business owners, because the other shoe will drop eventually. Eventually, Donald Trump's, at the very least, his policies will have to face the disinfectant of sunlight, and the fact that they're illegal will make them stop happening eventually, right? But nobody knows when that day is, and it might not be for another 4 years. So it's like, you know, companies don't know to bend the knee, whether to stand up, like, you know, maybe to speak out. Like, nobody, it's unprecedented grounds what he's even able to do to people.
Plus how they would work practically. It was also unclear what the impact would be on the many films that shoot overseas, a group that includes sequels to major franchises such as Avatar, The Avengers, and Mission Impossible. Studios were hoping to get more information about whether certain films that had already been completed or were already in production would be exempt. There was also confusion about why the president has singled out movies while not mentioning television production.
Because he's dumb. Because he just didn't think of it. Just because he didn't think of it.
Newsom's office said, quote, we believe President Trump has no authority to impose tariffs under the International Economic Emergency Powers Act, since tariffs are not listed as a remedy under that law. In addition, Deadline spoke to what they described as a representative from a leading U.S. film company who is preparing to shop for films at the Cannes Film Festival, saying, quote, Trump's moves are already affecting sales in China, but this would reduce the entire global market, with buyers not wanting to pay minimum guarantees if there will be a tax on films in the Cannes market or on films they've already acquired. It affects domestic distribution deals, but it also impacts equity players who have money in movies because their films will suddenly be worth less money. We won't be able to make movies for the same budgets, actors won't get paid the same fees, and the list goes on. Simply, it would destroy the independent sector. So let's talk about the films that are going to be impacted here, or that seem likely to be impacted. And let's start with the ones that are easiest to talk about, which are international films. Those are movies that are made outside of the United States, but which are picked up for distribution by studios or production companies inside the United States. These are movies from other countries like Parasite or the Demon Slayer series or I'm Still...
Anime fans are about to crash out, yo. Anime fans are about to crash out. Now, I don't know what the percentage of like anime fans to Trump voters are, but given how mainstream anime is lately, like there's not a single doubt in my mind that a lot of these anime heads are gonna get blindsided by this. Like they're if this continues, because it's like, you know, just Japan just exports so much like media to the United States that it's like there's no way. Oh my God, there's no way. There's no way. That's why I don't think this is gonna stand, because it's like the film might be too universal. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, you want to tariff the coconuts, that's fine, because at the end of the day, it's like we need to hold a coconut in our hand in order to get the value from it. A TV show, like people are just gonna start pirating. You know what I mean? VPNs and stuff. It's like how is he gonna do this? Like, you know? And it's like a movie being from a specific place is largely made up, because like you was saying before, it's like an assembly line. It's like, there's Americans that probably worked on this Japanese production, and there's probably other Asian countries involved as well. It's a team effort. That's why film is so great. It's a team effort.
Still Here, which won the Academy Award earlier this year. Now, the way that this works is that these movies are made by talent overseas or in different countries, and then a studio in Hollywood will come in and pay a distribution fee that will allow them to show the movies in theaters here in the United States.
And these distribution deals are really like Cinderella stories for a lot of these filmmakers a lot of the time. You know what I mean? And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So it's like, and just being in an American market can really just create someone's whole entire career, even if they're from a country that doesn't have a booming film industry where, their work might not be appreciated, right? So the fact that this is going to be taken away, or this is being threatened to be taken away, is just so sad for so many talented artists out there. And and mind you too, like there are people with like, irons in the fire already, probably, like, I'm some up and coming filmmaker from Guadalajara, like Netflix picked up my movie, now I got to worry about Trump tariffing it or whatever.
With a 100% tariff in place, it's almost certain that Hollywood studios or other companies would be less likely to buy a film that they know would be subject to these proposed 100% tariffs, or at the very least, that they would pay less for these films up front, knowing that they were going to incur greater costs, which would really disincentivize a lot of these sales to American distributors.
And I feel like that is the more ideological goal because look, mind you, Donald Trump is motivated by fame and money for himself and maybe his family, right? But the people around him that are kind of animating this run that he's having right now, like they're more concerned about the long game, and they do have more nefarious like goals to make America less diverse. And I think that this is two birds and one stone. Okay, they get to amp up the pressure with this tariffs, this trade war that's going on, to maybe make other countries feel a little bit more afraid, especially countries with booming entertainment industries. But also, again, less diversity. They like that. They like that. They like the fact that artists from other countries can't create works that are culturally relevant in the United States. And Trump will just say tough titty. And guess what? All of his supporters will say tough titty too, because they have, they're not smart. They don't watch foreign films. Like, you feel me? Except for maybe anime. Except for anime, right? I think anime might be the clincher. Like, what I mean? I think anime might be the clincher, to be real. But yeah, like, what I mean? But yeah. And again, it's like I am of the belief that this is a distraction. I don't think this is going to push through. But it just goes to show you that at any given moment, any aspect of American life or culture that you took for granted, Trump can flip a switch on and threaten, right? So, get in your rewatches now, okay? Watch Parasite if you haven't. It's a banger. All right?